There's a molecule in your brain that starts quietly declining in your 30s. By the time you hit 50, you've lost around half of it. And when it runs out completely in certain parts of the brain, that's when Parkinson's disease begins. The tremors, the stiffness, and the slow, irreversible loss of movement. But here's what caught my attention. Scientists in Norway just figured out how to measure this molecule directly in living human brains. And what they found surprised everyone, including me. And before we move on, and don't want to leave you hanging, the molecule I'm referring to is NAD+. It's a key component for mitochondria, and it uses it to produce the energy it needs. Every cell in your body needs it, but it turns out your brain is especially hungry for it. Think about how your brain operates. It needs constant electrical signaling to maintain connections between billions of neurons, to maintain movement, cognitive function, and the very processes that clear out metabolic byproducts in your body. All of that requires energy, and energy requires NAD+. Now, we've known this for decades. NAD+ drops as you age. That's not anything new. But what we didn't know is whether you could actually boost NAD+ levels in the brain by taking supplements. Because here's the thing, most molecules you swallow don't make it past the blood-brain barrier. Your brain has this incredibly selective security system that keeps most stuff out. So the question becomes, can you actually get NAD+ into the brain where it matters? Well, in one of the first studies I'm going to talk about in 2022, a team of Norwegian researchers decided to answer that question directly. They recruited 30 people who had just been newly diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and not on medication yet. They gave half of the group 1,000 milligrams of nicotinamide riboside daily. That's the form of B3, vitamin B3, that your body can actually convert into NAD+. And the other half got a placebo, just a sugar pill. But here's what made this different from every other NAD+ study. They used phosphorus MRI spectroscopy to actually measure NAD+ levels inside the brain. Not in blood, not in muscle, in the actual brain tissue. What I'm talking about is to look inside someone's brain with no surgery involved and watch a molecule change over time. That's remarkable. And what they witnessed, NAD+ levels in the brain went up significantly. But unfortunately, it wasn't uniform. Some individuals' brain took up the NAD+ really well, and others not so much. The researchers could see this happening in scans clearly in real time. And the interesting part was, the people whose brains showed the biggest increases in NAD+ also showed something else. Their brain metabolism patterns started to change. So the team did PET scans that measured how the brain uses glucose, basically where the brain is burning energy and how efficiently it does it. In Parkinson's disease, there's a very specific pattern of brain metabolism that's abnormal. Certain regions become overactive, others underactive. It's like the brain's energy distribution system goes a little haywire. But in people taking nicotinamide riboside, whose NAD+ levels rose, those abnormal patterns started to normalize. Their brain started using energy more like a healthy brain would. Now, this was only 30 days. And what they saw were mild improvements in motor symptoms, tremor, stiffness, and movement. But I'm talking about very early and very subtle changes. What really stuck with me wasn't the size of the effect. It was that there was an effect at all. Let me back up just a second and explain why that matters. Every medication we have for Parkinson's disease, levodopa, dopamine agonists, all of them, they do one thing. They replace or mimic dopamine to help with the symptoms that people have to endure. But they don't touch the underlying problem, which is that brain cells in a specific region called the substantia nigra are dying. They're running out of energy, accumulating damaged proteins, and eventually just shutting down. We've never had a treatment that actually shows slowing of the process. Not one. So when you see even a small benefit that increasing NAD+ might help brain cells produce more energy and function better, that's not just interesting, it's potentially a completely different approach to this whole disease. But the researchers had to solve one problem, the response being variable, with some individuals responding well and others not so much. They thought maybe the dose wasn't high enough. So in 2023, the same Norwegian team ran another trial called NR-SAFE. They took 20 people with Parkinson's and gave them 3,000 milligrams of nicotinamide riboside daily for 1 month. This was triple the previous dose. So the main goal was to check if this dose was even safe to take. And the results? It was completely safe. No serious side effects, and NAD plus levels in the participants' blood shot way up. And one unplanned surprise, when they measured motor symptoms, the people taking the high dose improved by more than 10 points. On the main Parkinson's rating scale, that's a huge difference. That's substantial. For context, when pharmaceutical companies develop new Parkinson's drugs, they're hoping for improvements of 3 to 5 points. Again, this was 10 points. The placebo group, of course, no change. Now, the researchers had to be careful about this. Some of the participants were taking Parkinson's medication already. So they noted that by chance, the people in the nicotinamide riboside group might have taken their levodopa medication more recently before the final assessment, which could have influenced the motor scores. So we can't be certain the entire effect was from the supplement, but even accounting for that, there's a signal here. Something is happening. And that brings us to right now, to the trial that actually matters, NOPARK. It's a phase 3 clinical trial. This is the final phase before a treatment can actually be approved. This trial involves 400 people with early stage Parkinson's disease. It involves 10 centers across Norway, double-blind, placebo-controlled, the whole rigorous setup. Half the participants are taking 1,000 milligrams of nicotinamide riboside every day. Half are taking a placebo. And they're being followed for an entire year with regular measurements on motor symptoms, quality of life, brain imaging, blood biomarkers, pretty much everything. The trial just finished enrollment, and the last participants are completing their 1-year follow-up right now. Now, these results will be released in June 2025. That's 5 months from now. Think about what's at stake here. If this trial shows that nicotinamide riboside actually slows the progression of Parkinson's disease over a year, not just improving symptoms, but changes the trajectory of the disease, this would be the first disease-modifying treatment for Parkinson's that exists. For the first time, we'd have something that might actually slow down what's happening in the brain. Here's what gives me a sense that the researchers are fairly confident about this working. They're already running an extension study. Participants who completed the main NOPARK trial can now enroll in an open label extension where everyone gets nicotinamide riboside at 1,200 milligrams daily for another year or more. They're not waiting for the official results to be published. They're offering it now. The lead researcher even filed a patent on using nicotinamide riboside for Parkinson's. You don't file a patent unless you think you're onto something real. So let's talk about what this actually means beyond Parkinson's, because I think this is where it gets personally relevant for most of us. NAD plus decline isn't unique to Parkinson's. It's a normal part of aging. Your levels start dropping in your 30s and your 40s, and by 50, you're down by about half of what you had in your 20s. And NAD plus is involved in so many crucial processes: mitochondrial energy production, DNA repair, cellular cleanup through autophagy, gene expression, and managing inflammation. When NAD plus drops, all of these processes become less efficient. And Parkinson's is what happens when brain cells in specific regions run completely out of energy and then they die. But before that extreme endpoint, there's a spectrum: brain fog, slower processing speed, difficulty learning new things, memory lapses. These are all signs that your brain's energy production isn't what it used to be. When it comes to boosting mitochondrial function, improving cellular energy metabolism, reducing neural inflammation, these mechanisms being studied in this trial become relevant to everyone's aging brain. Now, should you be taking nicotinamide riboside? I really can't answer that because I'm not a doctor, but I do read the studies and I try to make sense of them for you. But what I can tell you is what the data shows. Nicotinamide riboside has been tested in humans at doses of up to 3 grams, or 3,000 milligrams daily, with no serious safety issues. It's generally recognized as a safe supplement by the FDA. It's available over the counter, and we now know it can reach the brain and increase NAD plus levels there. What we don't know yet, and this is crucial, is whether increasing NAD plus actually changes disease outcomes over the long term. That's what the NOPARK study will confirm for all of us. Personally, I can't wait for June to come. Those study results, They'll let us know if the benefits they saw in the smaller studies can hold up in larger populations. And we'll know what the optimal dose might be, and it's only 5 months away. That's just right around the corner. What I find most compelling about this whole story isn't the promise of the supplement. It's what the research represents. For decades, we've known about the biology of aging, NAD plus decline, mitochondrial dysfunction, protein aggregation, all of it. But we haven't really fully tested it long-term, whether intervening in those processes actually matters for disease. We've just assumed they're too fundamental, too complicated, too many moving parts are involved. This trial is one of the first serious attempts to test that assumption in a rigorous way. And if it works, if boosting NAD plus generally slows Parkinson progression, that opens up so many doors for those suffering with this disease. I'll be covering the NOPARK results when they're published in June, so look out for it, because that's when we get a confirmation on if this actually works. And if it doesn't work, that's valuable too. We'll know we need to look elsewhere, try different approaches, test other interventions. And that's what makes this worth paying attention to, not the hype, not the hope, but the fact that we're about to get actual data on whether we can do something meaningful about brain energy decline. Mark your calendar for June 2025. That's when we'll actually really find out. This is Dave. I hope you tune in for that. If you like the video, hit the like button. It helps the channel, helps this information get out to people. Thanks for watching. And like always, I'll see you in the next one.